All right, and we are recording. All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out today to join us for what's going to be an awesome presentation. This is the first in a series of webinars on ITSM emerging topics. We're honored today to have Katrina McDermott, a highly reputed international speaker and author. She was a contributing author to the official ITIL 4 publications and was recently awarded Service Management Champion of the Year by ITSM Australia. Also, and saying this with a little bit of envy, she is an ITIL Master, which is the highest ITIL certification you can earn. It's 3 in Australia, if I have that right, Kat?
Well, there's only 2 now because the other lady's retired. So
okay,
maybe 2.
So 1 of 2. There you go. So today we're going to follow the following format. Presentation is going to last about 40 to 45 minutes with time left over at the end for Q&A. Feel free to use the Q&A window to answer or ask questions at any time. Also, if you want to ask a question, raise your hand. I'll take you off mute. But if you're not speaking, I would ask that you put yourself on mute. If you want to talk to each other, please use the chat window. And the webinar is being recorded and will be available on the ITSM website within 5 business days. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Kat.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Mitch. And Mitch, how many do we have?
We're at 125 now, so
wow.
very good audience. I'm very pleased.
That's fantastic.
So, absolutely.
Hi, everyone. I feel very honored. Let's kick off. Topic is humanizing IT, and you can see there's pictures of people, I should say, on the screen. And I'm Katrina McDermott. Just very briefly, because Mitch gave me a fantastic glowing introduction. I specialize in IT service management education. I'm passionate about educating us. As Mitch said, I'm an ITIL master and a global ambassador for Axelos and creator of Humanizing IT, which is the topic today. And very quickly again, about our company, KJM Services. I'm a director and we do ITIL training. There's new modules in ITIL 4, I'm not sure if you know, called Sustainability for Digital and IT. We do the specialist courses, we do maturity assessments, and we do consulting as well. So hopefully down the track, I might get to meet some of you. Let's kick off. So what is Humanizing IT? It's about us, because I think we get a bad rap in IT professionals. I think that still to this day, the consideration of our experience and how we feel is not at the forefront of management mind. So I'm here to promote what we do and to make our job easier. So Humanizing IT is a concept, it's a framework, it's a way of working that we've created. And basically it integrates human-centered design with IT service management. And we create value streams. And so that's what we end today on, is talking about value streams and using human-centered design. And I talk very briefly about what human-centered design is, but it's a discipline or a framework, philosophy that's used a lot out there in the marketing, social world. And I bring that into IT service management. So I've seen a lot in the 2 years since COVID. I used to work for the aviation industry and like many people, we had to repivot. And as I said, we do a lot of consulting now, and I've been in a lot of companies, both nationally, globally. And we have a logo, a saying in our company, it's same problem, different logo. So CMDB, who's ever seen one that's actually working how it's designed or was meant to be working? Problem management. Unfortunately, I still see a lot of reactive, rather than, I'll start again. I see a lot of reactive versus proactive problem management. Knowledge management, I'm still seeing a lot of PDF files of 20 pages saying to our users, here it is, to our people. Continual improvement. When I ask people, are you doing continual improvement? Yes, no, are we? I say, have you got dedicated resources? Have you got a register? Have you got budget? No. And tooling issues. How many times do we go in there and say the tooling's not set up properly People are still contacting the service desk via email, calling up because the tooling is very user friendly. And I get quite passionate about that. Like, why do we keep doing the same things? So why did I create Humanizing IT? Because when was the last time you heard IT is fantastic? Very rarely do we hear that. In fact, I have a quiz, and Mitch, I'm going to ask you because I can see you. And this is something I ask when I present. Mitch said earlier that I present around the globe, and I do. And I always ask this question. And no matter where I am, what industry I am, these are pretty much the answers I get. So let's just spend a moment digesting what they are. What do you think, Mitch? Pretty negative, aren't they?
I hear my request or issue goes into a black hole and I never hear from IT, or if I do hear from IT, it's the wrong answer. So those,
Yes.
all those answers resonate.
Yeah. And so the question was that I asked the audience, and in this particular one, we had an audience of over 200 people. And the question was, what do you think the business thinks of IT? And that made me a little bit sad, because that's what IT thinks that they think of us. It's not what the business said, it's what we said. And I just thought we really have to change how we do things. And that's why I said that slide earlier about problem management and CMDB, knowledge management. We keep doing the same things and we're not getting any different results. And that's what we're saying. We need to, we expect different outcomes. We're always doing transformations, continual improvements, et cetera, And how often again do we hear, Kat, we'll just get the basics in. We're going to implement incident change and we'll do everything else later. Problem management, knowledge management. Now this drives me crazy because these are the most two important practices in IT service management. And they're probably the most neglected. And I know that we do them, but I think we do them very poorly. I give an example of knowledge management. I said earlier that we do PDFs. Well, today we don't actually read, we skim. And I don't believe, in my experience, people that are doing knowledge, and again, this is just in my experience, are trained, because we need learning, adult education. And you guys would know this, how people learn is very different to how it was in the 80s. And we're not investing in the people to know how to do that properly. And I also like to talk about, do we know the purpose of IT? And I'm going to go back, because the purpose of IT was to automate business transactions. That's the purpose of IT, automate business transactions. Have we heard of Fordism? Again, Mitch, because I can see you. Have you heard of Fordism?
Just in the context of industrial or productivity Correct. Sort of aspect,
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what I didn't mention, I'm actually, I've been fortunate to broker a deal with a UK publishing firm. And we talk about Fordism. And Fordism is, again, very high level, is a way to make something efficient. So it goes back to Henry Ford, the car manufacturing. He was all about efficiencies, making things cost effective, quick off the production line. And that was called Fordism. And I think Fordism a little like the purpose of IT service management. It was designed to ensure a systematic approach or uniform approach. Processes were systematic, documented and repeatable, and everything was designed so we could apply it consistently. And that's what especially ITIL was about. Consistent behavior, repeatable. It could be applied across any type of technology. Would you agree? However, we're finding that in our research that it was as if IT service management was like a production line, making it the same thing, efficient and effective. And Mitch also mentioned that I'm an ITIL master. And what that meant, I had to study all the books when it was called a library ITIL. over 5,000 pages I studied. And guess what? Not one picture of a human. And even though I'm an iTool ambassador and I'm a contributing author, I feel that that is where we are today. We didn't think of the human experience. We thought of the processes. We wrote them down in a Word document. We got Visio out, and we didn't think of the people that we're serving and us also in IT. How do we feel? And what we do matters. And I love this because I'm speaking to Americans and also people around the globe. So you've probably heard of this famous saying when President Kennedy visited NASA and he asked the janitor what he was doing. And the janitor said, "I'm helping put a man on the moon." And every time I present this slide, I actually get quite emotional because I think it's such a strong and powerful message. Meaning the janitor knew his place in the organization's mission. When we ask IT people what they do, this is what we typically get. I write code. I negotiate service levels. I roll out the latest software patches. So we may not be putting man on the moon, but we may be doing something equally as important, because we might be actually help customers board planes, aid patients, in helping justice prevail. And very rarely do I hear this language from IT professionals. And I think we also need to change how we talk, just like that janitor. And again, what makes me quite passionate, we don't want to hear our management tell us about yet another service management transformation project, the need for us to be more customer focused. If I hear that one more time, a looming restructure, a new tool because we got it wrong the first time. And again, that we need to be more customer focused, because what we say is IT traditionally attracts people that are very analytical. We love fixing things. Mitch, you had a problem before we started. You wanted to fix that. That's what we're like in IT. So I think management needs to be more aware of how we are and the type of people this industry attracts. And sometimes I feel it's like management needing to tell us to be taller. What does more customer focus mean? It means so much to different people, and especially people in IT, generally speaking. And that's what we do in Humanizing IT. We start teaching us about human-centered design. And as I said, I mentioned it briefly, but really human-centered design is about empathy. And it's about empathizing with our users and with each other. And it starts with the people that you're solving for. Because if we try and use the same approach for everything, which is what we do, Fordism, service management, we're going to end up with solutions that are not fit for everybody. And I concede in Australia, and I'm sure it's in your in America as well, a lot of IT organizations have started to use Agile and DevOps and human-centered design. I admit that. But in my experience, what they are not doing, and again, I'm just a little bit of tongue-in-cheek here, I find these young people that come in and do the Agile and do the sprints and do the Post-it notes, they're fantastic. They're a different era to how I used to work, completely different. And they do a great job, don't get me wrong, but they don't consider us IT service management. They consider the product, they consider the customer experience, but they don't consider how we support their products, how we maintain them, how complex IT is. And again, I want to bring discipline of human-centered design into IT service management. So they do consider how a customer feels. And they work on things, how do we make the wait time more enjoyable? How do we make the customer journey more seamless? As I said, they do consider that. But as I said, how about how we feel? How do we feel when there's a long queue of tickets? Dealing with a high priority incident? Working with poorly designed tooling? And being told consultants have come in? And so what I'm saying is that when these designers are designing products and services and this amazing experience, how about how we're feeling if it breaks? How about there's a long queue? And again, I want to bring that discipline into IT service management. By humanizing us, the user, that is what we call our users. Mitch, again, I'll refer to you. Is that what you call users?
Actually, USC, we have a culture of calling everyone a customer. Again, maybe it's just a label, but it's trying to change a little bit of the mindset. So we've kind of moved away from user,
So even internally is your customers.
Internal, external customers.
Partners,
There's definitely a treatment difference. And I think that should change because it tends to favor the experience of external customers, or maybe not internal customers. And I think that's really what we're focusing on here in your presentation.
So. Correct. Yeah. And even, and I love what's going in the chats, even unfortunately, ITIL 4 refers to user. It's not the user, it's just user. I don't love it. And why, even I think if we call clients and customers, colleagues, team members, we're still designing for the most part, in my experience, for one type of person. And so what I'm saying is that this is, again, a bit of tongue in cheek. Think of two customers, both born in the 40s, born in the UK, have children, dogs, etc., and have a deep love of music. Completely different. And this is what we're saying with you. And we say in IT service management, if you have a problem, call the service desk. So no matter who you are, call the service desk. And that's the same here. You're a user or you're a customer or whatever we're calling them. We're not designing us service management practices around the different type of people. So again, let's look at an example. Our colleagues work for the same company, both rely on IT and both are tech savvy. But again, if you have a problem, call the service desk. So frontline staff, and I said earlier, I worked for the aviation industry, I worked for Qantas. Even frontline staff, passengers that were boarding, staff that were boarding passengers, if they had a problem, they had to call the service desk. And do you think they're going to call the service desk? No. And we never went out and, sorry, the sun's coming up. We never went out and understood our users. Traditionally in IT service management, when the user calls the service desk, this is what they do. Okay. And what happens is, and this did happen at the airports, staff didn't ring IT. If something was broken, like a scanner, they'd go and get another one. And then you end up with broken equipment at the airport. And then everyone says IT is rubbish because nothing works. And so what we have to start doing is understanding our users and introducing empathy, start understanding how they work. And I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a later slide. And as I said earlier, if you want to design a successful service, you need to understand them. And designing a service for everyone will result in not a great experience. Would you agree that that's how we did it? One service, one practice fits all. That's it.
It's usually the loudest voice in the room that we designed for. So
yeah. And so what Humanizing IT does is we go out and understand our users, our customers, our clients. We call them colleagues, as I said. And I love this, the social dilemma that I picked this up. There's only two industries, illegal drugs and software, and according to Katrina, service management. So I want to banish the word users. It's quite, when I read that, I thought, I'm going to use that. It's so true, so true. So in Humanizing IT, in our framework, but you can call them what you do within your organization, we call them colleagues. And the customer is the person deriving from the business service. So that's why it's interesting, Mitch, you said customer, because in our approach, the customer is the person, as I'll show in a moment, like the passenger or the patient, etc. So again, just to sort of stop and take a look back, what I'm saying is that we need service management. We absolutely need it, because that gives us stability, standardization, cost effectiveness improvement. That's what we focus on, and we do need it. But we also need to start looking at researching, problem solving, empathizing, innovation. And I don't think traditionally IT service management, and especially ITIL, allowed us to be think outside the box. Remember that saying, best practices, and we never challenged it. And I'm all about challenging it. And again, you know, you're probably starting to hear things like fail fast, fail often, do things in small bites, etc. And this is bringing the two disciplines together. Okay, and as I said, I don't see this. I see human-centered design being used, doing great stuff. And I see IT service management, and this is about bringing them together. The next thing I'm going to talk about is it's none of your business. And what I mean by that, traditionally, and especially in my career, we were kind of discouraged from speaking to the business and to customers. I used to get told, why did you speak? And when I worked at Qantas, in fact, we were highly discouraged in IT to go and speak to a passenger, highly discouraged. And so how can we be more customer focused if we don't get to spend time with them? And again, I'd like to, if you want to challenge me, please do. But how many hours a day, you know, does an administrator spend talking to airline passengers, or a change manager spend registering patients, etc.? Very rarely do people in IT speak to a customer. Okay, very rarely. So as I keep saying, how can we be more customer focused, CIO? Because I never speak to a customer. And it's not the people in IT that get to speak, it's the business people. So your colleagues, as you said, your customers, they speak to the customers, not us. So what we need to do is start empathizing with our colleagues. Okay, so the same discipline that is used in human-centered design to go and speak to customers, I'm saying use it to speak to our colleagues. Okay, we start journey mapping our colleagues' day. We start doing personas on our colleagues and on us. Okay. And so here we start talking about, I guess, the crutch of what humanizing IT, and it's value stream mapping. And we've put a different slant on it. We've called it value stream mapping in a box. And in IT service management, we design IT value streams that support business value streams. So it's a bit of a framework that, as I said, it's in a box, and we supply you all the artifacts and coaching to do this. But it's really important to understand what your business value streams are. And quite often when I ask IT people, what are your business value streams, that actually don't know. And I'm going to use an example of an airline's business value streams, because when I worked for an airline, and two, it's something we can all relate to. An example of an airline business value streams is checking in a passenger, boarding a passenger, managing passage baggage, and providing lounge access. So this is what we're calling a business value stream. And the idea is to go out to the business and understand what they do. This might also be something under if you ask your enterprise architects, they'll probably have this. Go and talk to those guys. They know a lot about your business in the capability map, but go and find what your business value streams are. And we have IT service management value streams. Do we know in ITIL 4 that we don't actually or shouldn't implement a practice? So we shouldn't implement incident management. We shouldn't implement knowledge management. I'm not sure if you know that, but under the ITIL 4 framework, it is highly discouraged to implement a practice. You implement value streams. Because what we're saying is when you do incident management, you are not only doing incident management. You are doing, hopefully, knowledge management, access management, config management, lots of supplier management. And by soloing, saying we're only doing incident management, I got an amen. You're creating a solo environment. So that concept, and certainly in my career, we had a change manager sitting in the corner and a problem manager and a knowledge manager, very soloed. And what we're saying is we've got to stop this way of working, and value streams bring people together. And so these are the value streams we've defined in Humanizing IT. There'll be plenty more, and it's a concept as well. And I just want to caveat, the value streams are not new. That's not something that I've created or I taught. They've been used for decades. You might have heard of them before. But what we're doing is really bringing that concept into IT service management. And so processes help us understand who did what and in what order. But what they often fail to tell us is the why. Okay, so again, as I said earlier, we've got to stop getting into Word and writing a process and a procedure and doing a Visio. I'm not a big fan of those. Okay, I would rather do a value stream map. And I'm not saying we don't need governance. We absolutely do. As I said, we need that service management. But again, we've got to see what value are we getting out of that. And for those that aren't familiar with what a value stream is, it's a series of steps. I kind of say sometimes it's a process on steroids. It's still telling us what to do, but a value stream map is visualization. Okay, again, this whole concept of documenting in a Word document with hundreds of, lots and lots of pages. Let's visualize it by using people. And as I said, ITIL 4 concedes that earlier versions of ITIL did create dysfunctional and solid ways of working. And as I said, this is where we're really getting into the crutch of what Humanizing IT is. So typically we have a customer layer and a colleague layer. I'm going to zoom in on here. So this is a journey map. And I start introducing this into IT. Okay, and you don't have to be a great drawer. And in human-centered design, we say everybody's creative. We can all draw a stick figure. Okay, just need the templates and artifacts, which we supply. And here is David Lee. And we create personas. And again, I'm using the airline as an example. A persona is a fictional representation of a group of people. So this is a persona of a passenger. And we map his activities. Again, we don't have to be an artist. We can do stick figures. There's lots of tools. And again, we provide all these type of artifacts for you. Then we have the business layer. Now, this is where we focus on in IT. We go out and understand the people that we are here to serve. We are doing service management. We are serving people. And so what we do, we go out and understand them and what their day looks like against a business value stream. So do you remember a business value stream was check-in baggage management? So once we identify what the business value streams are, we go and map our colleagues' journey. So we've created a persona called Carmen. She's an airport supervisor. We map what she does. And when I actually worked at the airlines and when we do consulting, especially now we're sort of coming out of COVID, this would be up in the wall in IT. So we understand the people we're serving. Carmen's busy. We understand on a Monday morning, we understand that she has a shared phone. She works shift work. So don't call her in the afternoon. She might be asleep. And one, does she want to get called? This concept that we have to call the user 3 times to close the ticket. Why? It's wasting time. Go
That's,
and
it's
ask.
funny, Kat, that you mentioned that, because there's a lot of activity in our particular listserv where people are asking how many times do you wait before you close a ticket. So very timely you're bringing this up.
Great. I mean, what other industry calls the customer 3 times? None. Like, don't stop it. It's a waste of time. And this is where we do value stream mapping. And value stream mapping essentially is about improving, identifying gaps, identifying waste. And as our research says, I don't want to be called 3 times. I even think once is sometimes once too many to be often. But again, we're starting to empathize with our colleagues and designing services, designing service management practices around them. We understand what makes Carmen happy, etc. What makes her not so happy. And guys, our day has come. We have a customer layer and a colleague layer. In Humanizing IT, we have our layer, IT service management layer, where we actually got thumbs up. We actually start doing personas on us, empathizing with us. So we create a persona on our service desk people. And we're quite often asked, it's all about employee experience and, really looking after our people and culture. But very rarely do I see personas based on us. And we actually start to understand our people. I love doing personas on people that work in apps and networks. It's fascinating. And I'll tell you a quick story. Did a personas on service desks at a company. And because we interview people, and you can do all this. As I said, we provide the techniques to do that. But a gentleman on the service desk loves the queue numbers going down. He said, Kat, that's why I'm really quick on tickets, because I love watching the numbers. And he said, when I go to a football match, I don't watch the game. He watches the score. And you know what that tells me about him? He'd be fantastic at problem management. And so we start understanding through these design and research of our people, what makes them happy and how we all can do our job better. So just a couple of moments there, because as I said, our day has come. And here, we map, our traditional impact and urgency matrix. At Qantas, same thing. Oh, there's only one passenger impacted. We didn't understand. And, that ended up being a priority 3 issue. And then more passengers are impacted, but because there was shift work. So we actually start journey mapping and making the service management practices fit for, Mitch, as you said, what was it? Fit for delight? Yeah. Yeah, not fit for purpose, only fit for delight.
Can I interject a question? We have a question.
Of course, yeah.
Janice says, how do you navigate pushback regarding the simplicity or taking one's unique persona through the journey versus like a quantitative method that looks at the experience of many?
Yeah, so that's how we do personas, where we interview a lot of people and we find common traits. And the research methods can be qualitative and quantitative. What we find, though, that to do personas takes a lot of money and time. And, the big companies spend probably hundreds of thousands creating, they typically have 4 personas. So for an airline, the personas created a business person, backpackers, elderly couple, I can't remember, the banks have. So in our approach, we do proto-personas. And I'm not sure if you've heard of proto-personas. So proto-personas are a scaled down version and a quick way of creating them. But happy to provide more information after that. I'm just doing a time check here. How are we going for time?
Good. We're at 1:37, so got 10 more minutes or so, 15, and we can jump in.
Great. So I might just go back. Would you have any more questions there? You're welcome. Because I really like discussing about the 3 layers. So I'll just go back for a second. Of creating the personas, of mapping them, and you can see the template that we would provide, what the activities are, the experience, what the goals are of that passenger, and the touch points of their technology. And it's really interesting when you do that, because the touch points is where we start coming in from technology point of view. And I often use the example that sometimes just to do one thing like print out a boarding pass uses again, I'll use my example of Quantum, use 8 service providers just to print a boarding pass. And when we start understanding the experience of our customers, and then start understanding how our colleagues support the business value streams, and again, the richness of data you can get out by understanding our colleagues. And I think sometimes, have you heard of the word picnic, saying picnic? I might put it in the chat. Have you heard of that one? I think sometimes we used
have
to
different variations in the US,
right,
but yes.
Right. What's the layer 8? Layer 8.
Yeah, people, right.
What's that one? I haven't heard of that one.
The OSI model, where it's a 7-layer for real hardcore network people out there.
Okay.
Yeah. So
right, yeah.
We have an interface between the chair and the keyboard. That's what we have. The ID10T error.
Oh, yeah, EDS, yeah. And I think we traditionally did have this thing, or the user stupid. Yeah. And it's how about how we design our services. And sometimes, and that's why I go back to at the beginning when I said about the tooling. Sometimes when I'm at a company and I want to log a service request to do something, I can't even do it. And I'm like, what makes you think that this is okay, IT, to release something so poorly? And using, before we release anything into service management, as I said, the tooling, the process, follow your users and get them, observe how they're using the process. Observe them trying to log an incident, sit with them, shadow them, etc. And as I said, we very rarely did that. Very rarely. As I said, we had an incident management process. We followed it. It was best practice. We wrote contracts on that. As I said, I used to get called in the hallway at work and say, Kat, I've got a problem. I'd be the first to say, you've got to log a ticket. We've just designed this great process. You've got to log a ticket. But as I said, if we go out and speak to our colleagues, empathize with them, understand how they use our services, it is a complete win-win situation. So we've just got someone in the chat to say we have a usability office that does just this kind of thing. Fantastic. But what I'm really passionate about is that people in IT start learning about human-centered design, because it goes back to that question earlier. There are tools and techniques that we have to learn to design our services. It's not just a matter of, because I have heard people say, oh, Kat, we do go out and spend a day, watching our users. That's great. Don't get me wrong, but tools and techniques to design service management, I think, is imperative. And my goal is that we do human-centered design training for IT service management. We do 1-day boot camps, or we're going to do a 3-day. And my goal, and we all have to have a mission, and is that everybody in IT does at least 1 day human-centered design for IT service management. And I'm just going to go back a second, because I know there's lots of courses out there in human-centered design. And I said earlier, tongue-in-cheek, that there's teams out there doing agile that's using design thinking, but they're not doing it for service management. Okay, in my experience, and that's what we do. How do we create those IT service management value streams? So restoring a service, and this is the way we use deep research, we shadow, we conduct surveys, we talk to people, we walk in their shoes, we do lots of things. And how do you be empathetic? And again, empathy is hard, because it costs time, it's money, you've got to invest in it, and your management has to invest in it as well. And as I said, if now, especially today, it's all about our people and our experience, the great resignation, people are moving on. You want to keep people. And so if we start designing services around our colleagues and around us, it is simply a win-win situation.
So Kat, I think that's why we've got such a high attendance today, because design thinking as it relates to keeping our talent, right, is in the front of everyone's mind.
Yep.
You know, how are we engaging with people that work for the organization to make sure that they are happy and productive and don't try to find employment elsewhere because they don't feel like they're being heard or empathized with.
Correct. Yeah. And especially too, Mitch, that's a great point, is that, you know, I find it just amazing that, you know, we keep doing the same things the same way and it just doesn't work. Okay. Because as I said, you know, people in the business typically don't value us with, you know, they're slow, we're complex or a cost center. So again, in Humanizing IT, let's go and ask the management or our colleagues like Carmen, go back to Carmen, what type of reporting does she want to see? Do you think they want to see how many incidents that we solved this month? No, they don't want to see that. They want to see how did we enable their business. So just in the last couple of minutes we've got, this is a true story, in the airline industry, there's a problem that happens called, it's duplicate seating when you go on a plane and someone's in your seat. That's the bug in the software, because seating is very, very complex. And so I did an initiative to get the number of incidents down. And I remember talking to the airport supervisor, who this persona is based on. And she said, Kat, how about not reporting on the number of incidents? How about reporting on the number of customer complaints? That's what makes her happy. And as I said, let's go and understand her. And I say in IT, how often do we see the complaints from customers? For example, the wrong meal was served on the airplane, long wait, baggage being charged extra. When do we ever see that in IT? Very rarely do we see the customer complaints. So what I do is ask the contact centers or whoever looks after, can I have a look at the customer complaints? And a lot of the times I'm told, oh, Kat, but that's not IT related. It absolutely is IT related. Absolutely it is. So go and ask your people in the contact centers, the complaints that they're getting from the passengers, from people in the hospital beds, from the lawyers, etc. And that's another technique that we use also in our approach. So I'll just sort of jump ahead to the end. That's about it, really. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank you and to say that it is about us, the people in IT, not just about the people in the business and the customers. It is about us. And I'm passionate about that. So there's just my contact information. Please feel free to scan me. That'll take you to my website. And I'd love to hear from you of any questions, or if you're interested in boot camps or training. Obviously, we do them remotely as well. They work very well. So I guess, Mitch, over to you, and any questions?
Yeah, thank you so much, Kat. And looking at the Q&A, I don't see any questions lined up. This was very helpful, and I think it's caused a lot of people to think and maybe take back some asks to our organizations. Your contact numbers, or contact information is available if people want to reach out. This does conclude the presentation. Again, Kat, thank you so much for waking up at 6 a.m. on your holiday to join us.
5 a.m. because I was.
Oh, 5 a.m. Yes,
Yeah,
you joined me a bit earlier. So let's take, actually a question did come in, so let's honor that. So Alex is asking, what's the difference between a proto persona and a persona? I think you mentioned kind of a high level kind of persona. What's the difference?
Basically time and money. So a persona is, you spend a lot of time, deep research on creating a persona, and it can take up to months sometimes, because you've got to go out, interview, probably up to 50 people, got to shadow them, find out what their motivations are, in different ways. Whereas the proto persona is a cut down version of that. cut down, so you don't spend as much time and money. So you're not going to get, I guess, as rich insights about your customer base. But it's still, I think proto personas are perfectly acceptable, especially sort of for what we do. And just to let you know, as I said earlier, that most, if not all, big companies have designed their products and services on about 4 personas. So human-centered design is used out there. You know, all the big companies use human-centered design, and I'm bringing that into service management to design great service management practices and value streams.
Maybe there's something we can send out as part of the recording package about what the differences between the two. So I will follow up with you on that, Kat. So, and yeah, Beth, we're gonna get to the exciting part, is when is the recording going to be available? Let me just scan real quick, make sure there aren't any other questions. Let's field one from Anna. How much, or how can you measure the value proposition of it when you talk about customer focused design? I love the idea of measuring customer complaints.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's something that we don't do. And in IT, like, and we should do, because that gives us different perspective. And it's interesting. I ask CIOs this question as well. Do you get a list of what your customers are saying? And they always say, oh, no. And I'm like, you need to do it, dude. It'll give you a whole different perspective of what your customers on the street are saying. Yeah.
I think traditional way that we're getting feedback like that is 2 ways. One is if it comes in through basically the open field sort of text box option after a ticket is closed, whether it's a request or incident, but that's evaluating the effectiveness of the service you received during that interaction, right? As opposed to about the service itself, and through maybe your annual survey that you send out.
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I would challenge that. So there's 2 things there.
I didn't say it was right. I'm just saying that's traditionally how it's been done.
True. I'm challenging the traditional way, because in human-centered design, it's all about touch points. This is what we learn. Sorry, I'm going back again. It's about the experience, and we only ask at the end. So how about the experience on taking the call, on waiting? I mean, we let tickets sit in a queue for months sometimes. I mean, where is that okay? No one's contacted the colleagues. It's just we accept it. And this has to stop. And so we distill, and that's why we do value stream mapping. It's about your touch points. And that's what human-centered design, before and after, not only during as well. And Mitch, when you said about logging feedback for a ticket, what I'm saying is the feedback from customers, so from passengers, yeah, and from hospital beds, their customers, what are they saying? Because ultimately, like the janitor, we're here to serve the organization, and if we don't know what our passengers are saying, or our customers are saying in IT, how can we better enable services? And it's fascinating what your customers are saying.
Well, and that North Star mentality, that guiding principle of all of us that unites behind, from that person, emptying your trash, to the CIO that directly interface with the business. So
exactly.
Okay, let me make sure that we have all of these questions addressed. It looks like we're at 1:51. Let me go ahead and wrap it up then. So again, thank you for your time. Contact information can be found in the deck. Please take a moment to complete the exit survey. You'll receive that at the end here. Reminder to you all that the session's been recorded. You'll get the chat transcripts, the recording, the slides at the end within 5. We'll send it out within 5 business days. It'll be posted on the EDUCAUSE ITSM CG website. It's a good place to view upcoming information, and all of our past recordings are on there. So I encourage you to take advantage of that site and look at all the stuff that we've done in the past. So we're always looking for new ideas. If you or your colleague are interested in sharing, I always say I have a stage if you've got a message. So reach out to me and let me know if you have something you want to share. Again, thank you, Kat, for your time, and thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.